What is the biggest red flag you've had in a relationship that you'd ignored and really shouldn't have?
Experience 1. My ex-wife made jokes about murdering me or framing me for R-word if I ever tried to leave her. Luckily, I didn't get murdered. Fortunately, many other people had heard her make those comments, and I could prove I was in a different city at the time I was charged with sexually assaulting her, so the charges were dismissed. But yeah, I was like an Olympic ski racer blowing by red flags on that one. Experience 2. I dated a girl who refused to say I'm sorry, as in she never took responsibility for her actions, ever. It took me a few months to realize it, but once I started thinking about it, I couldn't remember her ever saying it. I kind of joked with her about it, and she said it wasn't true. But over the next few months, I was looking out for even more, and still, she just would never say it. If something was unequivocally her fault, someone or something caused her to do it. I didn't think of it as being a serious problem, but looking back on it, I feel like an absolute idiot. Experience 3. We agreed on literally everything. It was uncanny. Never argued, much less fought. I thought I had found my soulmate. He was just mirroring me for years and was incredibly conflicted, avoidant, to the point that he'd agree with anyone or anything so no one would be upset with him. Then years later he hates me because I never gave him a choice and made all the decisions. Experience 4. The biggest red flag I ignored was constantly thinking about how my next girlfriend would not do X or Y. When you're constantly thinking about your next girlfriend but sticking with your current one, you're the red flag. Edit, for reference, I've now been married for 17 years. This was me back when I was dating before I started dating my wife, who I never once felt this about because she is and was the one. Experience 5. The refusal to keep secrets. I told my wife how private I was when we were dating, and she promised to not tell people what I liked sexually. A week later, she told her first person. We fought about it. She promised to never do it again. Over the next decade, she told another 10 people. We had a blow-up fight. She promised to never do it again. Then she told another 10 people. Now we're getting divorced. It turns out she never kept a single secret or promise. I should have listened the first time she told me that she wasn't trustworthy. Experience 6. The constant need to vent and find the bad in people and situations ultimately boils down to insecurity. It's fine for the most part when you're both alone. But anytime they go to work, anytime you hang with friends, anytime you visit their family, you don't hear the end of the negativity that went down. Life is never happy for them, and you can either be their punching bag for the sake of not wanting them to be alone, or you can take hold of your life and find happiness again outside of that relationship dynamic. Experience 7. While living together, the dude gave me the silent treatment for 4 straight days. Straight refused to talk to me. To this day, 5 years later, broken up for 4 years, don't worry, I still have no idea why or what I might have done. Because, he didn't know how to communicate like an adult. Experience 8. So, cliché, but being the victim. Always. I trust people until I see why I shouldn't. I assume everyone is honest. So when bad things happen to people, I try to help, to save, to fix. Silly me. If there are a ton of complaints without being solution-based, or everyone is horrible to your poor partner, there's usually a reason. Accountability is huge. Yes, we have crap days, we meet arseholes, and things go wrong. But the woe is me crap usually means they don't want to fix anything, they just want a babysitter. Experience 9. I don't know how to explain this properly, but I'll try. When someone changes significantly from the person they were in the first 3 to 6 months that you knew them, that is not them getting comfortable. That is them returning to the person they always were. They have pretended to be someone they're not to get you to like them and want to be with them. This is the biggest red flag I've ignored, not in just one, but 2 relationships. I can't believe I fell for it twice. Experience 10. I'm going to give you a 2-for-1. My ex and I started hanging out and getting close while she was in another relationship. She never cheated on him with me, but she was checking out of her relationship because of me. I was young and didn't think anything of it. Now, I would never do that to a fellow man and never would enable someone else to engage in that behavior. We talked for another 2 months or so before becoming official. Shortly before we became exclusive, as in 2 or 3 days, she slept with her ex in order to make sure she didn't want to be with him. Again, I was young and mostly thinking with my midsection. Even though we weren't technically exclusive, it was hurtful. Not to mention that she had cheated on another one of her exes in the past. These things really should have cued me into seeing her toxic behaviors and cheating tendencies. Spoiler alert, she cheated on me. Experience 11. Knew she was an alcoholic pretty early on when she told me she couldn't remember the last day she didn't have a drink. But she worked full-time, was a great mom, and only really drank in the evening. And I was raised by a functioning alcoholic. So, I figured I had this. It became too much when she started having a ton of health issues but refused to consider they may be related to alcohol abuse. I couldn't be there for all of the issues the way she wanted me to be. In part because I was resentful about the fact she wouldn't acknowledge her addiction and how it could be affecting her health. Experience 12. My ex was, probably still is, a kleptomaniac. Would literally hide things under her coat in the cart and shove things in her bag or pocket. I'm talking expensive Lego sets, bed sheets, and meat. The most memorable one was when she shoved a $50 plug-in water in her purse. She'd purposely leave pop on the shelf under the cart, and in the rare instance she got caught, she'd plead ignorance, and the cashier would believe her. She'd justify it as we were poor and things were too expensive. It got to a point where I refused to go shopping with her after a few months together. But she'd do it independent of me. I established that if she ever got caught, she was on her own, as I didn't agree with it. What should have been the breaking point was when I got a better job with much higher pay. I asked her to stop. I shared that we could more than afford things now and that she hoarded most of what she stole anyway. It'd sit untouched in closets for months. She responded by saying she would always steal and if I didn't like it, too bad. It's been years since we broke up, and I am proud of someone who is honest and works for what they have instead of being a thief. Experience 13. Love bombing. If someone seems over the top nice and extremely into you at first, then that's a big red flag. It's a way evil people trap you into putting up with their abuse later on. They're extremely nice, then over time their behavior gets worse and worse. Eventually, they become totally insufferable, but because of their initial act, you think they're a nice person who is temporarily mean and they'll go back to the way they were. Nope. Learned that the hard way. Experience 14. A ton with my ex. Early on in our relationship, like within the first month, I told him I didn't want to do the intercourse thing he asked for. He told me that he couldn't be with me if I didn't let him do it. So, I let him do it, but I didn't want to. That turned out to be a theme in our relationship. I'd say no, and he would either coerce me or just do it anyway. Also, he told me that I needed to be shaved down there, and that was a deal breaker for him. He didn't groom himself at all. He didn't care that I broke out in a rash or that my doctor recommended I stop shaving. Experience 15. The triangle of danger. 1. No long-term friends. 2. Bad relations with family. 3. Can't keep a job. Any of the 3 is understandable, heck even 2 are possible, but if someone has all 3 then run as fast as you can. They will try to explain it all away, and who knows, maybe there's a tiny chance it's true, but just wish them well and move on. Experience 16. My boyfriend said,
Rumors are going around that I, along with some other Serbian boys, tortured and murdered a cat. It wasn't me, it was them.
For 5 months into our relationship, I walked in on him drowning one of my cats, and I came home after grocery shopping and my other cat was beaten to a bloody pulp with part of her ear missing and one of her eyes protruding from her socket due to being strangled. She almost went blind. I left him afterwards. Yes. I actually dated a true psychopath. I wonder how many animals he's actually murdered, and I wonder when he's finally going to kill a human. Experience 17. Love bombing me and telling me I was too good for her, and saying it like she meant it. I should have listened to her. We had good times and got along fairly well. But she refused to get into a proper relationship because she wanted to take things slow. Wasn't sure if she was ready. While also saying things like,
"You're the most amazing guy I've ever met. You're so sweet. You're too good for me,"
etc. And saying that kind of stuff frequently. It turns out she was essentially letting me and another dude both do this, take her out and wine and dine her at the same time for months. Taking it slow with both of us. She admitted to me that she essentially had us in a competition to see who could win her over. All while getting to get the princess treatment from us both. And because she didn't commit to either of us, she didn't do anything wrong in her eyes. Happy ending though. I learned a lot about my type from that experience. We wouldn't have worked out in the long run anyway. I learned what to look for, green flags and red flags. My current girlfriend is an absolute gem. I never knew what true love was until we started dating. We hit it off the first day we met, then we have talked every single day since then. Until where we are now. See each other as partners, 2 halves of a whole in life, planning on getting married and wanting to get a place together. As we always say to each other, everything happens for a reason. Experience 18. He didn't want me to see my friends and would passive-aggressively guilt-trip me about hanging out with them. He wanted to text all day every day from the time we woke up to the time we went to sleep. And he started randomly showing up at my workplace using fake excuses because he wanted to check on me. Experience 19. We got into an argument while I was driving him from a party I didn't want to go, back to my apartment. He was angry because I didn't drink and wouldn't buy him beer for him to sit in my apartment and drink while I worked all night. He grabbed the steering wheel of the car while we were driving under an overpass. When I managed to yank the wheel back and correct the direction we were traveling, he screamed at me.
You stupid beach! You can't even kill us right!
We stayed together for 4 more years. All of it was one giant red flag. Experience 20. When my ex and I started dating, I couldn't put my finger on it exactly, but I just felt like she was lying about a lot. Like stuff that necessarily you wouldn't even think someone was lying about. But she had all these incredible stories from her past, and she was very funny and personable, and I just kind of went along with it. Everyone did. Long story short, one night, I just really got this intense feeling of danger. Like that, I really needed to get out. People talk about a gut or sinking feeling, and I never experienced it until that night. A lot of things weren't adding up, and I confronted her about it, and she turned it around on me, made me feel bad for not believing her, made me feel crazy. I wound up marrying her, and it would not be until years and some very traumatic experiences later that I realized I had been right all along. I feel like in many respects, those years of my life were essentially wasted because the person I was with was something like a hologram. I was the only person in that relationship. Just being in that relationship did an incredible amount of damage to my sense of reality and ability to trust people. I'm still recovering from it. The lesson is, do not ignore those gut feelings. It's your subconscious trying to tell you something, and it might spare you a lot of trouble. I ignored it because it didn't seem like she was lying about important things, which seems silly to say in retrospect. Lying, even about things you don't think are important, is a sign of things to come.
We hope you enjoyed listening to today's stories. If you want to see more stories, check out these videos or check the links in the description for more videos. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And ring that notification bell.